So as the free agent signings keep rolling in, it's finally time we sit down and talk about all that we've done this offseason. So in today's video, we'll be breaking down each and every move that we made thus far. You're listening to Money in the Bank. So to start this video off, we'll get the familiar faces out of the way first. The Panthers re-signed Henry Anderson from last year, 18 tackles in 2022 in 11 games. Adds to some depth for that defensive end group that we don't have a lot of talent or depth for right now. The next signing, one that's very important, and this guy deserves a special introduction that he will get from none other than myself. The White Rhino, the one, the only, Bradley Bozeman, solidifying that center position for us for the first time since Ryan Khalil retired. And honestly, I can't say anything other than glowing things about this man. Took over for Pat Elflein halfway through the year. Around the same time, Steve Wilks took over as head coach, and he helped propel us on that late season stretch down last year. This is a guy right now that helped solidify a group that came together beautifully last year. Having guys like Icky, having guys like Taylor Moden, those guys all coming together with the guy in the center that makes it all operate. So Bradley Bozeman was a priority signing coming into this year. I'm glad they wasted no time getting that deal done and made sure that it was a must that got done. The offseason doesn't start off well if Bradley Bozeman isn't on the roster. So shout out to Scott Fitterer for getting that done. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of the rest of the free agent signings of 2023. Von Bell, safety from the Cincinnati Bengals, comes in as a traditional strong safety to our team, a guy that can cover, play in that big nickel package, and a guy that does allow for more versatility across the rest of our defense. Now, I know the word versatility is a word that it evokes certain emotions if you understand what the last defensive coordinator wanted to do with our defense in his time here. But with Ejiro Evero, I trust that versatility will be a positive stance going into the future. The versatility that I'm talking about is Jeremy Chin, a guy that, that has struggled at playing that traditional safety. We've seen him try to work at free. They haven't really worked him at strong safety like I assumed they would have. But now talks are that, a transition to the linebacker could be happening for Jeremy Chin. This is something that I think is great for the defense, something that I think can really take this defense to the next level. We haven't filled the linebacker position since we've lost Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly. Obviously, those are two of the franchise greats, two of some of the best you're going to see in the league as far as duos go. And it is hard to replace those guys, but obviously bringing back Shaq Thompson with him due to him restructuring, adding Jeremy Chin to wherever you want to add him to this defense. The only thing I ask is that you get him closer to the football, something that I think Evero will make sure gets done in 2023. So now we move on and we move forward. Yada, 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 boom, boom, boom. Next up is none other than the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, presumably coming in to be the backup. Not even presumably. We've been told this. He knows this. And this is something that you want to have. I understand the people that wanted Sam Darnold to be re-signed. I kind of understand where you were coming from, because you do think that because of what you seen last year, you think that maybe with a real coaching staff, you think is competent, you think he could take another step, another leap. But this is a guy, Sam Darnold at 25 is a guy that's still competing to try to be a starter in this league. His career isn't over, and he's shown some flashes that still warrant him getting opportunities in this league elsewhere. Andy Dalton, on the other hand, is a guy that understands his role, a guy that understands what he needs to be in this league to stick around, and a guy that has accepted that role and wants to be a mentor to whomever we drafted with the first overall pick this upcoming, in the next month or so. So that is a great signing for Carolina. I think a guy that can win you football games. You saw it in New Orleans last year. With a solid group, he can still be productive. He can still make the team productive. And if he has to start games for you, I believe that you still go into weeks feeling that you can win football games. With a veteran head coach like Frank Reich, guys that we like on the offensive side of the ball as far as coaches go, Jim Caldwell, Josh McCown, you feel that adding Andy Dalton is a guy that, one, is going to be an extension of the coaching staff and can help bring everybody along, especially the younger guys on this team. Next up, we have Hayden Hurst. Oh, yeah, man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. University of South Carolina product Hayden Hurst had great production for the Cincinnati Bengals last year down the stretch. Now, his overall numbers don't scream, top 10 tight end. They don't do that at all, but they do scream that he's athletic and does have receiving ability that we haven't seen in his offense in the past few seasons. Last year, that tight end room was lacking production, to say the least, to put it nicely. But adding Hayden Hurst does help you with that. A guy that you look to be a security blanket for whoever you have at quarterback, a veteran option as well. A guy that you just expect to see solid production from beginning to end, and that's what we hope for him to be. And I kind of like the direction that this free agent class has gone thus far. The next up, Justin McCray, like I spoke on earlier, he's going to add depth to the guard position as Austin Corbett nurses that leg injury. Nothing more, nothing less. A guy that's supposed to be come in and be a solidified piece that you can plug and play immediately due to injuries. Next up, Miles Sanders. This is a guy that's going to be adding big-time production to the running back room. Now, he's going to be replacing Deontay Foreman, who, again, in 8 games, over 900 yards rushing, nearing close to 1,000, a guy that I thought would be a priority signing coming back, but the running back position is one that kind of gets, you were kind of willing to move off of those guys quicker than you are any other position. Miles Sanders adds production out of both the backfield in the ground game and the passing game. A guy that's going to be a legitimate option that can run in between the tackles, that can be good in short yardage. He isn't the, here's my thing. My personal preference is having guys fill particular roles in the backfield. You have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who's a Swiss Army knife that can do it all. But you have a guy like Chuba Hubbard, who's your change of pace guy that's more than capable of breaking off a big one with that track-like speed. You have another rotational guy, Raheem Blackshear, who's quick, in and out of cuts, and can do nice damage for you out of the backfield in the passing game or in the ground game, depending on however you want to use him. You don't really know what you don't really know what the play call is once he's in the game. Miles Sanders is a dual threat, and it's a dual threat in a sense to a lesser degree. But over 1,200 yards rushing last year, played a big part in one of the NFL's best rushing offenses last season, one of which they got to the Super Bowl. So, again, Miles Sanders, a great pickup for the Carolina Panthers. Next up, we have Adam Thielen. Now, I'll say, I have to be honest. When we talked on the podcast before, I wasn't high on bringing in Adam Thielen. And that's because I thought that maybe that would be the wide receiver signing and maybe we don't go get anybody else. In my mind, I wanted Mecole Hardman because of the vertical threat that he would possess. But Adam Thielen, when you look back at it, I guess he is a solidified option. Now, he's a guy whose production has waned the past couple of seasons, but he's been playing with none other than a top 3 receiver named Justin Jefferson, who is taking up the bulk of the targets and receptions in that offense in Minnesota. Adam Thielen has still been a productive guy. At age 32, you do worry about him aging out of being a top receiving threat for a quarterback, but he's a guy that can win out of the slot, and that's something that we need dearly because we didn't have a guy that could do that for us last season. So Adam Thielen is going to be a solidified option in that receiver room, a guy that I think can help bring along guys like Laviska Shenault and Terrace Marshall and Shi Smith, depending on how things work out with the rest of the roster. So next up, we have Shi Tuttle. And Shi Tuttle and Deshaun Williams are going to hit kind of both in the same clip because they're very similar in that they're going to be asked to be the anchors of that defense in this new 3-4 that we're going to run. Both of those guys add depth. Both of those guys add experience at that position. And both of those guys are looking to be a plug-and-play run stoppage for a defense that struggled with that some last year. You need to be able to stand tall when it gets late in games. And if you can have those two guys in your rotation, you will be able to do just that. Deshaun Williams, obviously playing for the Denver Broncos last year, a familiar face for Ejiro Evero to add on to this defense. Shi Tuttle, playing for the New Orleans Saints last year. Again, guys that you don't see their presence in the stat sheet, but you do see their presence when you get late in games. And I expect to see that for us this season. And we're going to keep it on with this thing here. And we get to the very end of the video. Sorry, I was not prepared for that. Overall, oh my God, I'm wrong. I'm tripping. Before we started recording today, we got news of one more signing that the Panthers Nation has been waiting to hear about. DJ Chark has now been signed by the Carolina Panthers. I don't have the numbers for you as far as his contract situation just yet, but one thing I will say is that for a guy that played in 11 games that had over 500 yards and 3 touchdowns, you look at his late season production, once he came back from injury in November, it was there. It was there, and you see a guy that could possibly be that deep threat option for you immediately as soon as he steps onto the field. The one thing that you have in the receiver room now, you don't have a superstar anymore, and we'll miss DJ Moore dearly because he's a guy that I think was an elite number one. I don't think you have an elite number one on your roster right now, but what you do have is a veteran in Adam Thielen and a wild card option in DJ Chark that I think can take that next step and have a career year here in Carolina. I think he's going to have all the opportunities to do so. Terrace Marshall is going to be a guy that you're going to be looking to have a career year from as well, being your second round pick in 2021. Guys like Laviska Shenault add that duality of being a guy that you kind of use in the backfield, possibly as a running back coming out. In the screen game, as you saw last year, plenty of times where he popped off the screen because of what he could do with the ball in his hands after the catch. Adding DJ Chark is a guy that we wanted, a guy that we got, and I think a guy that makes his free agent class, it makes you feel good about it. If I had to give this class an overall grade, I gotta give it a B-, because there's nothing flashy about this class, but it fills holes that you had in mind going into the offseason. Scott Fitterer did nothing but address the needs that we had going into the season, and that I can't do nothing but applaud, man. Get that man a drink, man. Take a shot with me. Scott Fitty, you've impressed us this offseason. You've impressed us this offseason with what you've done, getting us to the number one pick, the free agent pickups as well. A lot of great value that I think we have in those signings, and the hope is those signings can help us win football games as we head into the season. This has been Money in the Bank. I'm your host, Sean T. Stewart. Good God, I'm out of breath. We did this all in one take. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow us at P1N_network on Twitter and Instagram. And follow us at Panthers Nation with the one where the I's supposed to be, because you already know what time it is on both platforms, Twitter and Instagram. And with that being said, I'm out of gas. I'm your host, Sean T. Stewart, and I'm out.